One cement factory, one product, one industry. Yet building a modern cement plant can require an investment of between $250 million and more than $1 billion before the first bag of cement is ever sold. That's enough money to build entire neighborhoods, purchase several commercial airliners, or start hundreds of small businesses. And even after spending that much, the factory still has to buy fuel, generate enormous amounts of electricity, maintain giant mining equipment, and employ hundreds, sometimes thousands, of workers just to keep production running. So why would anyone invest this kind of money? Because cement is one of the few products that nearly every major construction project on Earth depends on. Every highway, every bridge, every airport runway, every skyscraper, every dam, every hospital, every modern city begins with one simple ingredient: cement. But unlike most manufactured products, cement doesn't begin inside a factory. It begins inside a mountain. Millions of years before a single bag reaches a construction site, nature has already done most of the work. The real question is this: how do you turn ordinary rock into a billion-dollar business? Today, we're breaking down the complete economics of owning a cement factory, from mining the raw materials to building the factory, the massive startup costs, the yearly operating expenses, and how these companies make billions of dollars supplying one of the world's most essential building materials. Welcome to Raymap's Profit Lab, where we break down the real economics behind the world's biggest businesses, industries, and billion-dollar companies. If you enjoy learning how massive businesses actually make their money, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves business, investing, and entrepreneurship. Now, let's get started. Cement is one of the most important construction materials ever created. Without it, modern civilization would look completely different. The roads we drive on, the bridges we cross, the apartment buildings we live in, the factories that manufacture products, the airports that connect countries, and even the foundations beneath our homes all rely on cement. Every year, billions of tons of cement are produced around the world to meet the growing demand for construction and infrastructure. Despite new building materials entering the market, cement remains one of the most widely used construction materials because of its strength, durability, and relatively low cost. That demand explains why some of the world's largest cement companies generate billions of dollars in annual revenue. But before a cement company can earn its first dollar, it must solve one major challenge. It needs raw materials. And that journey starts far away from the factory. It starts in a limestone quarry. Many people assume cement is simply manufactured inside a factory using chemicals. The reality is much more fascinating. Cement begins as rock. The primary ingredient is limestone, a sedimentary rock made mostly of calcium carbonate. This rock formed millions of years ago from the remains of marine organisms that settled on ancient seabeds and gradually hardened into massive limestone deposits. Besides limestone, manufacturers also need smaller quantities of clay, shale, silica sand, iron, ore, and gypsum. These materials are carefully blended in precise proportions to produce high-quality cement. This means that owning a cement factory is also, in many ways, owning a mining business. Without a reliable source of limestone, there is no cement. And without cement, there is no business. After the limestone, clay, silica, and iron ore have been crushed and ground into a fine powder, the material enters the most important machine in the entire cement plant, the rotary kiln. This is where ordinary rock is transformed into the material that gives cement its strength. A modern rotary kiln can measure more than 200 feet, or about 60 meters, in length, and operates at temperatures approaching 1,450 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt many metals. Inside the kiln, the raw materials undergo a series of chemical reactions and form small, dark, marble-sized lumps known as clinker. Clinker is the real product that every cement factory is trying to make. Cement itself is produced only after the clinker is cooled and mixed with a small amount of gypsum before being ground into a fine powder. Building this part of the factory is extremely expensive. A complete kiln system, including the preheater, precalciner, cooler, and supporting equipment can cost between $80 million and more than $250 million, depending on the plant's production capacity. It is also the biggest consumer of fuel. Running a cement kiln 24 hours a day requires an enormous amount of energy. Many plants burn coal, petroleum coke, natural gas, or alternative fuels such as processed waste and biomass. For a large cement plant producing around 1 million tons of cement per year, annual fuel costs alone can easily range from $20 million to more than $70 million, depending on energy prices and the type of fuel used. When fuel prices rise, profit margins can shrink very quickly. That is one reason many cement companies invest heavily in energy efficiency and alternative fuels to reduce operating costs. Once the clinker has cooled, it is mixed with gypsum and sometimes other materials before entering another massive grinding mill. The result is the fine gray powder that people recognize as cement. The finished cement is stored in huge silos before being loaded into bulk trucks, railway wagons, ships, or packed into bags. Automatic packing machines can fill thousands of bags every hour. A complete packaging and dispatch system may cost between $10 million and $30 million, depending on its level of automation. From there, the cement is transported to distributors, wholesalers, ready-mix concrete companies, and construction projects. Transportation is another major expense because cement is heavy and relatively inexpensive per ton. Shipping it over very long distances can become uneconomical, which is why cement factories are often built close to major markets or near rail and port infrastructure. Modern cement plants cannot simply produce cement without considering their environmental impact. The manufacturing process releases dust and significant amounts of carbon dioxide. To meet environmental regulations, companies install dust collectors, bag filters, electrostatic precipitators, emissions monitoring systems, wastewater controls, and noise reduction equipment. These environmental systems can add another $20 million to $100 million to the construction cost of a modern plant. Operating these systems also increases annual maintenance and electricity expenses. Environmental compliance has become one of the biggest long-term challenges facing the global cement industry. A large integrated cement plant typically employs between 300 and 1,000 people, depending on automation and production capacity. These employees include miners, engineers, electricians, geologists, laboratory technicians, heavy equipment operators, maintenance teams, accountants, logistics specialists, environmental experts, security personnel, and management. Annual payroll can range from $20 million to more than $80 million, depending on the size of the operation and local wage levels. Let's bring everything together. Land acquisition and mining rights may require $20 million to over $100 million. Exploration and geological studies can cost $2 million to $15 million. Mining equipment often requires $30 million to $80 million. Crushing and grinding equipment can add $30 million to $100 million. The kiln system alone may require $80 million to over $250 million. Storage, packaging, and dispatch systems can cost $10 million to $30 million. Environmental control systems may add another $20 million to $100 million. Then there are buildings, laboratories, warehouses, electrical substations, water systems, roads, rail connections, engineering, installation, and financing costs. When everything is included, a modern integrated cement factory can require an investment of approximately $250 million to more than $1 billion, depending on its size, technology, and location. Now comes the question everyone wants answered. How much money does a cement factory actually generate? Consider a plant producing 1 million tons of cement per year. If the average selling price is around $120 per ton, annual revenue would be approximately $120 million. A larger facility producing 3 million tons annually could generate roughly $360 million in annual revenue at the same average selling price. The biggest cement plants, especially those serving large construction markets, can produce even more. However, revenue is not profit. Companies must still pay for fuel, electricity, maintenance, labor, mining operations, transportation, environmental compliance, spare parts, insurance, taxes, financing, and ongoing capital investments. Depending on market conditions and operating efficiency, operating profit margins often fall within the 10% to 25% range. That means a plant generating $360 million in annual revenue might earn $36 million to $90 million in operating profit before interest and taxes. Highly efficient plants with strong demand and lower production costs may perform even better. Owning a cement factory is not without risk. Demand depends heavily on construction activity. When economies slow down, governments reduce infrastructure spending, or housing markets weaken, cement sales can decline sharply. Energy prices can rise. Environmental regulations can become stricter. Competition from imports can reduce prices. Equipment failures can stop production for weeks, costing millions of dollars. Because these factories require such enormous investments, they usually take many years before investors recover their original capital. Despite these challenges, cement remains one of the world's most strategic industries. Every growing city needs housing. Every expanding economy needs highways. Every airport expansion, bridge, industrial park, hospital, school, and power station requires enormous quantities of cement. As populations grow and infrastructure continues to expand, demand for cement remains closely tied to economic development. For investors who can manage the risks and operate efficiently, a well-run cement factory can generate steady cash flow for decades. A cement factory is far more than a manufacturing business. It is a mining operation, an engineering company, an energy-intensive industrial facility, and a logistics network combined into one enterprise. From extracting limestone out of the ground to producing the final bag of cement, every stage requires massive investment, advanced technology, skilled workers, and careful planning. Building one may cost hundreds of millions, or even more than $1 billion. But the factories that succeed become the foundation of modern economies, supplying the material that literally builds our cities. The next time you drive across a bridge, walk into a skyscraper, or watch a new neighborhood being built, remember that it all began with ordinary limestone transformed into one of the world's most valuable construction materials. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the economics of owning a cement factory, don't forget to subscribe to Profit Lab, leave a like, and share this video. And let me know in the comments, which massive business should we break down next?